Two sisters, both turning 60 this year. Both nurses who spent 3 decades on their feet in the same public hospital. Both walked into retirement with exactly the same super balance, $580,000. Same career, same pay, same number on the screen. Then one of them makes a decision the other doesn't. The first one hands in her notice the week she turns 60. Done. She's worked hard enough and long enough, and she is finished. The second one stays, not because she has to, because she wants to understand what she's choosing before she chooses it. 7 years later, one of them is watching her super run lower than she expected. The other has watched hers grow toward $1 million. Same starting point, completely different outcomes. So let's talk about why. Because this decision, retire at 60 or keep going to 67, is one of the most consequential financial choices an Australian can make. And most people make it based on exhaustion rather than numbers. Here's what most people don't know about turning 60 in Australia. 60 is your preservation age. It is the moment the government finally lets you access the super you have spent your entire working life accumulating. After decades of watching that balance grow on an app, the money is suddenly available. And if the job has been grinding you down, the temptation to walk out the door the morning after your birthday is completely understandable. But here is the number that changes everything. The age pension doesn't start until 67. If you retire at 60, there is a 7-year window between when your salary stops and when Centrelink starts. No employer contributions, no government top-up, just you and your balance, funding your entire life from a pot that is now draining rather than filling. Most people visualize retiring at 60 as pure freedom. Very few of them visualize what it does to the balance sheet. Let's use our two nurses to make this concrete. The first nurse, the one who retired at 60, wants to live comfortably. She's earned it. A SFA's comfortable retirement standard for a single person currently sits at around $51,000 a year. That's the benchmark. Private health cover, a reliable car, eating out regularly, the occasional trip, a decent life, not an extravagant one. So she starts drawing $51,000 a year from a balance of $580,000. That is almost 9% of her balance gone in year one, before accounting for any investment growth. In a reasonable market, she might be earning 5 to 6% on what remains, but the withdrawal rate is outpacing the growth rate. The balance is falling, slowly in the good years, more sharply when markets have a bad run. And markets always have bad runs at some point during a 7-year stretch. By the time she hits 67 and the age pension becomes available, her balance has taken a hit she can never undo. The most dangerous years of retirement, the early ones when sequence of returns risk is at its highest, were spent drawing down capital that compounding can no longer recover. Now the second nurse, same balance, same birthday. She decides to keep working, drops back to 4 days a week, and gives herself a year to look at the numbers properly before making any permanent decisions. Her super doesn't shrink. It grows. Her employer is still contributing. Her balance is still compounding. She is not drawing a single dollar out of it. At a conservative 6% annual return, $580,000 becomes somewhere around $870,000 over 7 years without her adding much at all. Factor in ongoing employer contributions and the number climbs further. 2 nurses, 1 decision. The gap between those two balances by age 67 could be the difference between drawing a comfortable income for life and worrying about money in your 80s. Most people never see this coming because they think about retirement as a moment rather than a structure. Now let's talk about the tax dimension, because this is where a lot of Australians leave real money on the table without realising it. During your working life, your super sits in what's called an accumulation account. The investment earnings inside that account are taxed at up to 15%. That applies right up until the day you fully retire. The moment you retire and convert your super into a pension account, the investment earnings become completely tax-free. And from age 60, the income you draw is tax-free as well. That is one of the genuinely great deals inside the Australian financial system. Tax-free growth and tax-free income simultaneously. But there is a trap sitting right next to it that catches people out constantly. There is a middle option called a transition to retirement pension. It lets you access some of your super from age 60 while you're still working, which sounds like the best of both worlds. And in some circumstances it is, but a lot of people assume that moving into a transition to retirement pension automatically triggers the tax-free treatment on investment earnings. It does not. Inside a transition to retirement account, earnings are still taxed at up to 15%. The full tax-free treatment only switches on when you fully retire, or when you turn 65 regardless of work status. Get that wrong and you're paying tax you thought you'd already left behind. Now let's talk about what sits between the two extremes, because this is the option that doesn't get nearly enough airtime. Full retirement at 60 and grinding on full-time until 67 are not the only choices. There is a significant amount of territory between them, and for a lot of Australians, that territory is where the best answer actually lives. Drop back to 3 or 4 days a week. Use a transition to retirement pension to replace some of the income you've given up from reduced hours. Keep employer contributions trickling into your super. Let the balance continue growing, even if more slowly. Ease into retirement rather than treating it like a light switch. This approach protects the balance during the most financially vulnerable years. It gives you more time in the market. It keeps your hand in the workforce for a while longer, which matters for some people's sense of purpose, even if it doesn't matter to others. And it avoids the jarring psychological shift of going from full-time work to complete financial self-reliance overnight. It's not as clean as the story of handing in your notice on your 60th birthday, but the balance at 67 tells a very different story. Here is the part that the spreadsheets never quite capture though, and it matters. If you are burning out, if the job is affecting your sleep and your health and your relationships, staying 7 more years has a real cost that does not appear on any retirement calculator. Stress is not free. Poor health is not free. Years spent miserable at a desk when you could have been well and present with the people you love is not a neutral financial decision dressed up as discipline. Some people would genuinely trade a larger balance for a better 7 years, and there is nothing irrational about that. Retirement is not a reward handed out for suffering the longest. It is a decision about how you want to spend the time you have. The honest answer to whether you should retire at 60 or work to 67 is that it depends entirely on your numbers and your life. What does your balance actually support? What will the age pension add to that picture? How does your health factor in? What does your spending actually look like in retirement, not what you estimate it will be, but what your bank statements actually show? The federal government's Money Smart Retirement Planner is a free tool that lets you put your real numbers in, your actual balance, your actual spending, your actual plans. It will show you how long your money lasts at different withdrawal rates and different retirement ages. 15 minutes on that website with honest inputs is worth more than any rule of thumb about when to retire. So let's bring our 2 nurses back into the room. Same age, same balance, same career behind them. The difference between their outcomes was not income or luck or investment genius. It was one decision, made with different amounts of information. The first nurse saw 60 as a finish line and crossed it. The second nurse treated it as a choice and made it deliberately. Neither of them was automatically right. Retiring at 60 can absolutely work when the numbers support it and the lifestyle fits inside them. Staying until 67 is not a punishment when the balance is building and the work is bearable. The real mistake is not picking the wrong age. It is arriving at the decision without a plan and letting exhaustion or peer pressure or the doom and gloom of a money forum make the choice for you. 60 is not too early to retire. 60 is too important a milestone to get wrong. If this helped the picture come into focus, hit the like button and subscribe. Next video, I'm going to break down exactly how a transition to retirement pension actually works, what it costs you in tax, and when it genuinely makes sense to use one. See you there.